My daughter's husband, Ryan Carter, thought I was just an old fool who didn't understand anything. He used to sneak into my room when he thought I was asleep, rummaging through my drawers, checking my shelves, pretending to look for nothing in particular. But that night, when he opened my drawer to grab the keys to my safe, his face turned white as chalk, then yellow like old parchment. What he saw there changed his life forever. And me? I just smiled in the dark. The fork froze halfway to my mouth when Ryan's voice sliced through the peaceful rhythm of dinner. "So, Frank," he asked casually, "that safe upstairs, what kind of lock does it have?" Across the table, Emily nearly choked on her water. "Ryan, what kind of question is that?" she snapped, her cheeks flushing. Ryan didn't even look at her. His eyes were fixed on me, watching closely, his smile practiced but predatory. He was testing me. I set my fork down carefully. "Buying time. What's this about?" I asked, pretending to sound amused. "Oh, just curious about home security," he replied smoothly. "You know, with all the break-ins happening around here lately." I frowned. "Break-ins? I've lived in this neighborhood 15 years. The most excitement we've had was Mrs. Thompson's cat getting stuck in a tree last month." Ryan waved a dismissive hand. "You probably don't hear about them. They like to keep it quiet, avoid panic." Then he leaned forward, elbows on my dining table, wearing that salesman smile that never reached his eyes. "But a man your age, living alone in a house this size, you must have some serious security measures." Emily shifted uncomfortably beside him. "Dad's always been careful about locking up," she said softly. "Right," Ryan continued, his tone smooth as oil. "But what about insurance? I mean, if something ever happened to you, God forbid, Emily should probably know where everything important is kept. Right?" The room suddenly felt smaller, the air heavier. His eyes didn't blink, his fingers drummed a rhythm on the table when I didn't immediately answer. He wasn't asking out of concern. He was mapping my assets. "I have everything organized," I said evenly. "Emily knows what she needs to know." Ryan's smile widened, sharp, wolfish. "But does she know about the key?" The words hung in the air like cigarette smoke. Emily looked confused. "What key?" she asked. Ryan's grin didn't falter. "The one in your dad's bedroom drawer." My voice came out sharper than I intended. "And how do you know about any key in my bedroom?" For just a second, Ryan's expression cracked. Something cold and calculating flashed in his eyes before he slipped back into his fake concern. "Oh," he said, rubbing the back of his neck. "I was looking for aspirin last week when I had that killer headache. Emily told me to check your bathroom cabinet. But I must have opened the wrong drawer first. Sorry, didn't mean to invade your privacy." Emily nodded quickly. "I remember that headache. You were really suffering." But I remembered that night too. Ryan had been upstairs for nearly 30 minutes, claiming stomach issues, long enough to do more than look for aspirin. "The aspirin's in the medicine cabinet," I said quietly. "Always has been." Ryan's jaw tightened ever so slightly. "Guess I was out of it from the pain," he muttered. The conversation limped on after that, but Ryan kept circling back. Questions about my bank, who else had keys to the house, my daily routines, each one like a finger pressing into a bruise. When dinner finally ended, Emily jumped up to clear the dishes. "I'll handle cleanup tonight. Dad, you cooked," she said warmly. "I don't mind," I replied, already stacking plates. I needed something to do, some rhythm to process the unease building inside me. Ryan stood, stretching. "Come on, honey," he said, hand on her shoulder. "Let your dad handle it. We should get some rest." Their bedroom door closed upstairs. But I stayed behind, washing dishes in silence, the clink of plates echoing in the empty kitchen. Wash, rinse, dry. My hands moved automatically, but my mind was racing. The key. The way Ryan had mentioned it. The subtle, rehearsed curiosity. He knew too much. Then other red flags started aligning like constellations. His unemployment story that never quite made sense. His constant questions about my finances. The way he studied my house as if memorizing its layout. I finished the last glass and hung the towel on its hook. The kitchen gleamed again, perfect order. My kind of peace. But something in the air had shifted. The house didn't feel safe anymore. It felt watched. As I climbed the stairs, I noticed it immediately. My bedroom door, slightly ajar. Just 2 inches of darkness showing through. That door had been closed when I went down for dinner. I always closed it, always. I froze on the top step, listening. Nothing, no movement, no voices from the guest room down the hall where Emily and Ryan slept. Only the faint ticking of the hallway clock and the sound of my heartbeat in my ears. I pushed the door open slowly. No creak, the hinges were oiled well. But the air inside felt disturbed, unsettled. Everything looked normal. Bed neatly made, reading glasses on the nightstand, lamp at the same angle. But I noticed what others wouldn't. The closet door, open 4 inches. I always shut it fully. The dresser drawer, not flush against the frame. And inside, a manila folder peeking out like a tongue. I opened it. My documents had been shuffled. Insurance papers mixed with bank statements. My will, moved to the front. And the small brass key I kept taped under the drawer's lip, was gone. My pulse quickened, not from fear, but from rage. Someone had been in my room. Someone who knew exactly what they were looking for. Ryan had the key. And he thought I wouldn't notice. But he was wrong, dead wrong. That night, I didn't sleep. Not because I was afraid, but because I was planning. Sleep never came that night. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to every sound my old house made, the creak of wooden beams. The hum of the refrigerator 2 floors below. The whisper of wind through the trees outside. Every little noise made my muscles tense. Because now I knew. I wasn't alone in my own home. At exactly 11:47 p.m., I heard it. Soft footsteps on the hardwood floor downstairs. Not Emily's, hers were lighter. Quicker. This was heavier, slower, deliberate. Ryan. I didn't move. I kept my breathing even. My body still, playing the part of the sleeping old man. Then, through the thin vent between the living room and my bedroom, I heard his voice. Low, urgent. Yeah, it's me. Everyone's asleep. A phone call. At midnight. My pulse pounded in my ears. The old man's definitely loaded. Ryan whispered, I found the bank statements. Investment portfolios, everything. We're talking serious money here. I froze. He wasn't talking to a friend. He was talking to an accomplice. Tomorrow night, Ryan continued, Emily's got that book club thing. 7 to 9 p.m. gives us perfect timing. I reached for my phone on the nightstand, opened the voice recorder, and hit record. I already have the safe key. Ryan said, grabbed it earlier today while they were having dinner. The old fool keeps everything important in there, cash, jewelry, probably more banking info. The words made my stomach twist. The old fool. That's what I was to him. He laughed softly. Look, I know you're worried about the timeline. But my gambling debts aren't going away. Those guys aren't exactly patient. If you know what I mean. This has to happen now. Gambling debts. So that's what it was. The lies, the money problems, the fake job search. Everything suddenly clicked. Ryan wasn't desperate, he was cornered. And he was willing to sell out his own family to dig himself out. Downstairs, his voice turned darker. Frank's just some lonely old widower. He has no idea what's coming. Hell, he was asking me about home security at dinner. Practically handed me the info I needed. Rage burned in my chest. He thought I was stupid, weak, a man too old to notice. But I wasn't old, I was observant. And now, I had him. The beauty is, he'll never suspect family. Ryan went on, even if he figures something's missing. Emily will convince him he just misplaced stuff. You know how old people get about their memory. I clenched my jaw until my teeth hurt. 66 wasn't ancient. My memory was sharp enough to remember every damn word coming out of his mouth. Trust me, Ryan finished. By Thursday, we'll be clear. I'll tell Emily I got a job offer out of state. Something urgent. We'll be gone before the old man knows what hit him. A pause. Then, the faintest sound of laughter. Cold, cruel. Yeah, well, maybe he should have been more careful about who he let into his house. Life lesson, right? The call ended. I heard him moving around downstairs for another minute, checking locks. Maybe, or making sure the house was quiet, then his footsteps crept back up the stairs. I quickly stopped the recording and slid my phone under my pillow. The hallway light cast a thin strip of brightness through the crack in my door. I watched his shadow move past, slow, silent. Then, the guest room door clicked shut. Only when I was sure he'd gone did I allow myself to exhale. I lay awake until dawn, my mind racing. Ryan had gambling debts serious enough to involve those guys. He had an accomplice. He planned to rob me tomorrow night, while my daughter was innocently out at her book club, and then disappear with her before I even realized what had happened. The betrayal ran deeper than theft. He wasn't just stealing from me. He was using Emily, my daughter, as cover. He was manipulating her love to hide his crime. That thought hurt worse than anything. But if Ryan thought I was just some helpless old man, he had no idea who he was dealing with. I'd spent 30 years as an insurance investigator, chasing con artists, fraudsters, and desperate men who thought they could outsmart the system. Ryan Carter wanted to play games with me? Fine. Let's see how smart he really was. The next morning, I woke at 6:30. Same as always. The recording on my phone sat there like a loaded gun. Time stamped, clear as day. Ryan's voice, planning a robbery. I went through my morning routine as if nothing had happened. Coffee, toast, newspaper, calm, methodical, ordinary. When Emily came downstairs in her robe, she smiled sleepily. Morning, Dad, sleep well? Like a baby, I lied. She poured herself coffee. Thank you again for letting us stay here. I know it's been an adjustment. Don't be silly, I said, smiling. It's nice having company around again. Then Ryan appeared, showered, clean-shaven, wearing that easy confidence that had fooled us all. Beautiful morning, he said cheerfully, kissing Emily's cheek. What's everyone got planned for today? I handed him a mug of coffee. Steady as a surgeon. Oh, the usual, I said. Might run a few errands later. His eyes flicked up. What kind of errands? Just odds and ends. Hardware store. Maybe the bank. A muscle in his cheek twitched. Nothing exciting, I added. Emily chuckled. Dad's always been old school about checking his accounts in person. Paranoid about online banking. Not paranoid, I corrected. Careful. You can't be too careful these days. Ryan nodded too eagerly. Absolutely. It's a jungle out there, especially for someone your age. There it was again. That backhanded condescension disguised as concern. He couldn't help himself. Speaking of careful, Ryan continued, I've been thinking about your home security. This neighborhood seems quiet, but you never know. It's perfectly safe, Emily said, a little too quickly. Dad's lived here 15 years without a single problem. But Ryan wasn't looking at her. He was watching me. Still, a man living alone. Valuables in the house, it pays to be prepared. You mentioned that safe upstairs. Is that where you keep important documents? I took a slow sip of coffee. Some things, yes. What about cash? I mean, if the banks went down or something happened, it's smart to have emergency funds handy. The audacity was breathtaking. He was practically asking for an inventory. I have what I need, I said flatly. Ryan smiled. That's good. And you mentioned being a heavy sleeper, right? That's lucky. Some people your age don't get proper rest. I hadn't said that, but I nodded anyway. Oh, yes. Once I'm out, I'm gone until morning. I've been taking something to help me sleep. Works like a charm. His posture relaxed immediately. Perfect. He believed it. Well, I said, standing. You two enjoy your day. I think I'll turn in early tonight. All this family time wears me out faster than it used to. Emily laughed. You deserve it, Dad. Ryan helped clear the plates, his eyes flicking toward the staircase, the direction of my bedroom. Calculating. I might stay up late tonight, he said casually. Watch some TV. I'm kind of a night owl. Make yourself comfortable, I told him, smiling. The remote's on the coffee table. As I left for errands later that morning, I glanced back at the house. Ryan stood at the upstairs window, watching me leave. Not the guest room window. My bedroom window. I tightened my grip on the steering wheel. He thought tonight would be his victory. He had no idea tonight would be his downfall. The hardware store was nearly empty that morning, just me, a bored cashier, and the faint buzz of fluorescent lights. I wasn't just shopping. I was planning an ambush. Ryan thought I was weak, predictable, too trusting to notice what he was doing. But he'd made the same mistake every criminal I'd ever investigated made. He underestimated the quiet ones. I picked up a few things that would help me think. A box of screws I didn't need. A pack of batteries. A roll of duct tape. But when I passed the party supply aisle, I stopped. That's when inspiration struck. Hanging from a rack was a small confetti cannon, the kind used for gender reveal parties or New Year's Eve celebrations. Spring-loaded, harmless. But loud, very loud. And that's when the idea took shape. If Ryan wanted to rob me quietly in the dead of night, then I'd give him the opposite. A glitter explosion so bright, so messy, so unforgettable that he'd never wash it off, literally or figuratively. I grabbed the cannon, plus 2 bags of ultra-fine metallic glitter, 1 gold, 1 silver, the kind that clings to everything it touches. If Ryan wanted to steal from me, he was going to shine like a disco ball doing it. When I pulled into my driveway, the house was quiet. A note sat on the counter in Emily's handwriting. Gone grocery shopping with Ryan. Back by 2 p.m. Love you, Dad. Perfect. 3 hours to work. I headed to my basement workshop and spread everything out on the bench. The confetti cannon's mechanism was simple: spring, trigger, tube. I replaced the paper confetti with my glitter mix, sealing it carefully with tape. Then I tested it. Click, boom. Silver and gold dust erupted into the air, coating my tools, my arms, and half the workbench. I laughed out loud. Perfect. Now came the real challenge. Setting the trigger to go off only when someone reached deep into the drawer, where the safe key used to be hidden. After a few careful adjustments and a test with a wooden spoon, I got it just right. A casual touch wouldn't set it off, but reach in with intent, like you're searching for something, and boom. Instant fireworks. I reloaded the cannon and carefully slid it into my dresser drawer, right in front of the back panel. From the top, it looked completely normal. A few old photos, loose buttons, nothing suspicious. The real trigger was hidden beneath. To complete the illusion, I placed an old luggage key near the front of the drawer, a perfect decoy. Ryan would see it, think he'd hit the jackpot, reach for it, and trigger his humiliation. It was poetic. He wanted to rob an old man in silence. Instead, he'd get caught in a shower of justice that sparkled. At 1:45 p.m., I finished reassembling everything just as I heard car doors in the driveway. Emily's laughter floated through the open window, light, unaware. Ryan's voice followed, calm, collected, the voice of a man who thought he was still in control. I shut the drawer gently and took a deep breath. The trap was set. After lunch, I told them I had to run another errand. Just need to pick up something at the electronics store, I said casually. Ryan barely looked up from his phone. But I saw the flicker of interest in his eyes, the wheels turning. If he thought I was leaving the house unattended, it probably confirmed his plan. Perfect. The kid at Best Buy introduced himself as Ethan. He couldn't have been more than 25, full of energy and sales pitch. Looking for anything specific today, sir? Yeah, I said, something small, wireless, good night vision. He raised an eyebrow. Lot of break-ins in your area? Something like that, I replied with a tight smile. He showed me a few options, and I chose a compact model about the size of a deck of cards, wireless. Motion activated, with 8 hours of battery life and a smartphone app for live viewing. You can mount it magnetically anywhere, Ethan said, real discreet, works great in low light. Perfect. Exactly what I needed. I paid cash. Back home, The TV was on, and Ryan and Emily were sitting on the couch, casual, comfortable, pretending to be normal. "Long day?" Emily asked. "Just picking up a few things," I said, smiling. "Think I'll go rest for a bit." Ryan barely acknowledged me. His attention stayed glued to his phone, probably checking the clock, already counting down to tonight. Upstairs, I unboxed the camera. It was beautiful, simple, efficient, silent. I opened the app on my phone, synced the feed, and started testing. The camera needed to catch everything. Ryan entering my bedroom, searching the dresser, and triggering the glitter explosion. It also needed to capture his face clearly, so there would be no denying what he'd done. I tried a few spots: top of the bookshelf, bad angle. Behind the lamp, too obvious. On the nightstand, perfect. I nestled it between two hardcover books, angled toward the dresser. The black casing blended perfectly with the shadows. When I turned off the light and checked the app, the night vision feed was crystal clear. I adjusted the motion sensitivity, tested the audio, and smiled when I heard the faint hum of the ceiling fan through my phone. Every sound, every word. If Ryan muttered even one incriminating sentence, I'd have it recorded in high definition. As I double-checked everything, I could hear Ryan and Emily talking downstairs, soft, casual, the way people sound when they think their world is safe. I stared at the phone screen showing my empty room. It wouldn't be empty much longer. Tonight, Ryan would walk into this same room thinking he was about to win. Instead, he was about to light up like a Christmas tree. I sat on the edge of my bed, calm and steady. For the first time in weeks, I felt in control. This wasn't revenge, it was clarity. I wasn't punishing him for what he'd done. I was exposing who he really was. Some people only learn the truth when the lights hit them. In Ryan's case, those lights just happened to sparkle. Dinner that night was painfully ordinary. Emily chatted about a new neighbor down the street, and I nodded at all the right moments, pretending not to notice how Ryan kept checking his phone every few minutes. His thumb hovered over the screen like he was waiting for a signal. He had that false calm about him, the kind men wear when they think they're smarter than everyone else in the room. By 8 o'clock, Emily curled up with a book in the living room. I sat in my usual armchair, making a show of rubbing my temples. "Long day," I muttered. "Think I'll turn in early tonight." Ryan looked up immediately, his face lighting up like someone had flipped a switch. "Actually, Frank," he said, his tone overly casual, "I was hoping we could share a drink first. You know, father and son-in-law bonding time." Emily smiled without looking up. "That's sweet. You two should spend more time together." "That bottle of Macallan in the kitchen," Ryan added smoothly. "Premium stuff. Perfect for a nightcap." I almost laughed. He'd planned this conversation down to the brand of whiskey. "I appreciate the thought," I said gently, "but my medication doesn't mix well with alcohol." His smile tightened just a little. "Come on. One small glass won't hurt. We're practically family." "Really, I should avoid it entirely," I said, keeping my voice mild. "Dad's right," Emily chimed in. "The doctor was very specific about his blood pressure meds." Ryan pressed harder, his charm starting to crack. "What about a toast then? Just a sip. To family?" He was desperate. Not for connection, for control. He wanted to make sure I'd be asleep later. "I'll tell you what," I said, standing. "You go ahead. I'll just sit with you." He hesitated, then forced a laugh. Sure. He disappeared into the kitchen. I heard the clink of glass, the sound of a cork, and 2 pours. When he came back, he held 2 tumblers, one full, one nearly empty. "Changed my mind," he said with that salesman grin. "Poured you just a splash. Barely a teaspoon." He held the glass out toward me. The whiskey shimmered amber under the lamplight. But I wasn't looking at the drink. I was watching his hands. Steady, too steady. "Ryan," I said softly, "I really can't." "One sip," he insisted. "Just one." Emily finally looked up. "If Dad says no, you should probably respect that." For just a second, his mask slipped, a flash of frustration, a spark of panic. Then it was gone. You know what? I said, rising slowly, like an old man giving up. I think I'll take one of those sleeping pills and call it a night. Doctor says they knock me right out. Ryan's relief was almost visible. That sounds perfect, he said quickly. You need your rest. Emily kissed my cheek. Sleep well, Dad. I smiled. Don't stay up too late. You too. Good night, Frank, Ryan said, that fake warmth coating every word. Upstairs, I went through the motions. Brushed my teeth, turned down the bed. I even rattled the bottle of vitamin D tablets on my nightstand to make it sound like pills. Then I double-checked the setup. The camera feed was live on my phone, showing a perfect view of the dresser. The glitter cannon was loaded, the dummy key gleaming faintly in the darkness. Everything was ready. I turned off the light, climbed into bed fully dressed, and left the door cracked open just enough to see the hallway. Downstairs, I could hear the faint drone of the TV. Then Emily's footsteps on the stairs. The guest room door closing softly. And after that, silence. Ryan was waiting. Waiting for time to pass. For me to fall asleep. I watched the minutes crawl by on my phone screen. 9:30, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. The house sank into that deep, heavy quiet of early morning. I lay perfectly still. My phone in hand, the live camera feed glowing faintly. My heart steady, my breathing slow. This was the calm before the storm. At 2:43 a.m., the first stair creaked. My eyes snapped open. The camera showed my empty bedroom, still and silent, lit in green from the night vision lens. Then, a faint movement. A shadow at the edge of the frame. Ryan moved like a professional burglar, slow, deliberate, avoiding the boards that creaked. He'd mapped the entire house by now. 3 weeks of living here had given him the blueprint. He paused outside my door. Listening. Testing. Then the handle turned. The door opened just enough for him to peer inside. My silhouette, still and unmoving, must have looked perfectly asleep. Satisfied, he stepped inside. The feed on my phone showed him clearly now. Dark clothes, gloves, face tight with concentration. Predator mode. He went straight for the dresser. Didn't even hesitate. He'd done this in his head a dozen times already. He pulled open the second drawer, the one that used to hide my safe key. His body language shifted, confidence flooding in. He reached inside. Boom. The sound was glorious, a small explosion of compressed air and chaos. The camera caught it perfectly. Silver and gold glitter erupted into the air, bursting in a sparkling cloud that coated him from head to toe. Ryan stumbled backward, coughing, blinking through a storm of glitter and confetti. The room shimmered like New Year's Eve. What the hell? He gasped, slapping at his face. I sat up slowly, acting startled. What on earth? I reached for the lamp and flicked it on. Light filled the room. And there he was. Ryan Carter, standing beside my dresser, drenched in glitter, holding the fake key like a guilty child caught stealing cookies. Ryan, I said, letting confusion drip from my voice. What are you doing in my bedroom? He froze, his mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. I heard a noise. He stammered, thought someone might be breaking in. I looked around deliberately. Breaking in? Into my bedroom? He looked down, saw the ridiculous sight of himself, gold and silver sparkling all over his face. His shirt, even his hair. There was some kind of trap, he said weakly. It just went off. Trap? I repeated. In my dresser? Before he could answer, Emily's voice echoed from down the hall. Dad, what was that noise? Ryan's eyes went wide. Lauren, stay back, he started to say out of habit. Then stopped, realizing his slip. I mean, Emily. Too late. Footsteps thundered down the hall. The guest room door flew open. Emily appeared in the doorway, robe tied hastily, eyes wide. Dad, are you okay? Then she stopped. Her mouth fell open. Ryan stood frozen beside my dresser, glowing like a Christmas ornament gone wrong. The air glittered around him. He looked like a man caught in the world's most humiliating spotlight. What is going on? Emily whispered. Your husband, I said evenly, was just checking my drawers. For what? She asked, her voice sharp. Ryan scrambled for an answer. I heard a noise. Thought someone might have, been in here. At 3 in the morning? Emily snapped, covered in glitter? Her eyes narrowed. And for the first time, I saw something new in her face, suspicion. Emily stood frozen in the doorway, staring at her glitter-covered husband as if she just walked into a nightmare she couldn't explain. Ryan tried to brush the sparkling dust from his clothes, but it clung to him. Every movement made it worse. The gold and silver caught the light like a cruel joke. Emily, he started weakly. I heard a noise. I thought someone was breaking in. I came to check on your father. At 3 in the morning? She said sharply. Her voice wasn't panicked anymore. It was razor-edged. And you ended up covered in, what? Glitter? Ryan's mouth opened and closed. It's some kind of security device. It just went off. Emily's eyes darted to me. Dad, do you have security devices in your furniture? I met her gaze, playing the confused old man to perfection. Not that I know of. Sweetheart, I was asleep until the explosion woke me. Ryan's face twisted. Maybe it was static? I don't know. I was. In his dresser drawer, Emily finished for him, crossing her arms. What were you looking for? He froze. I was trying to find something to help you sleep. You were restless. I thought your dad might have some medication. In his dresser? Emily's voice was cold now, stripped of warmth. The medicine cabinet is in the bathroom. Ryan, it always has been. Silence. Even the air seemed to pause. I watched the gears turning in her mind, the moment her trust began to crack. Ryan shifted from one foot to the other, coated in glitter, every breath betraying panic. Emily, I said quietly, I think you deserve the truth. Her eyes flicked to me, wary but desperate for answers. What truth? I reached for my phone on the nightstand, something I recorded a few nights ago. Ryan's head snapped toward me. Frank, don't. Don't what, Ryan? Emily's tone cut through him. What could he possibly have recorded that you're so afraid of? He said nothing. Just stood there, trembling slightly, the gold dust on his face making him look less human, more exposed. Sweetheart, I said gently, you need to hear this. I opened the recording and pressed play. Ryan's voice filled the room, clear, confident, unmistakable. Yeah, it's me. Everyone's asleep. The old man's definitely loaded. I found bank statements, investment portfolios, the whole thing. We're talking serious money here. Emily's face went pale. She turned slowly toward her husband. Tomorrow night, Emily's going to her book club meeting. She goes every Tuesday, 7 to 9. Gives us perfect timing. Stop it, Ryan said quickly. Emily, it's not. Be quiet, she snapped. Her eyes never left my phone. I already have the safe key. Grabbed it earlier today while they were having dinner. The old fool keeps everything important in there. Cash, jewelry, probably more bank info. Emily's hand went to her mouth. Her husband's voice, the same voice that used to whisper love to her at night, was now plotting theft in the dark. Look, I know you're worried about the timeline, but my gambling debts aren't going away. Those guys aren't patient, if you know what I mean. Her whisper came out like broken glass. Gambling debts. Ryan's breathing quickened. Emily, please, let me explain. Frank's just some lonely old widower. He has no idea what's coming. The beauty is, he'll never suspect family, even if he figures something's missing. Emily will convince him he just misplaced stuff. You know how old people get about their memory. That line landed like a knife. I didn't have to look up to know Emily's expression had changed completely. She took a slow, shuddering breath. You called my father a lonely old fool. Her voice cracked on the last word. You were going to steal from him and then disappear, using me as your cover? Ryan looked like a trapped animal. I didn't mean, it wasn't, Emily. They're dangerous people. I was trying to protect you. Protect me? She shouted. By dragging me into your crime? By lying to my face for months? Her tears glistened under the bedroom light, matching the glitter still clinging to Ryan's shirt. How much? She demanded. How much do you owe? He hesitated, his eyes flickered to me, then to the floor. 47,000. Emily staggered back like he'd hit her. $47,000? She whispered. Oh my God, Ryan. I can fix it, he said quickly. I have a plan. You mean robbing my father? She snapped. That was your plan? I stayed silent. This was her moment, the one where the illusion shattered completely. Emily wiped at her tears, her voice trembling with fury. You lied to me about the job, the money, the reason we moved here. You used me as bait to steal from the only man who's ever truly loved me. Ryan's composure cracked. You don't understand, Emily. I had no choice. You had every choice, she shouted. You could have been honest. You could have asked for help. But you chose to betray us. She turned to me, eyes glistening but steady. Dad, call the police. Ryan's head whipped toward her. Wait, Emily. No, please. We can fix this. Can we? She asked softly. You broke something that doesn't get fixed. Her voice hardened. Get out. Emily. Get out of my father's house. Ryan, right now. For a long, painful moment, he didn't move. Then something in her expression, cold, final, told him it was over. He grabbed his bag, his phone, his wallet. Glitter still fell from his hair as he turned for the door. This isn't over, he muttered. Half of everything is mine. Emily laughed bitterly. Half of what? Debt? Lies? Ryan glared at me, venom in his eyes. This is your fault, old man. You turned her against me. No, Emily said firmly. You did that yourself. He didn't reply. Just stormed down the stairs, slamming the front door behind him. The house fell quiet again, except for the faint, absurd sparkle still hanging in the air. Emily sank into the chair beside my bed, her face pale and exhausted. Dad, she whispered, I'm so sorry. I brought him here. I put you in danger. I reached over and took her hand. Sweetheart, you couldn't have known. And you're safe now. That's all that matters. She gave a shaky laugh through her tears. The glitter bomb, that was genius. I smiled. Sometimes, justice needs a little shine. 3 months later, peace had settled back into my house, the kind of peace that feels earned. The mornings were quiet again. The air smelled like coffee and toast instead of tension and lies. Sometimes, I'd catch the sunlight hitting the living room just right, and I'd still see a faint glimmer of gold dust hiding in the carpet fibers, a tiny reminder of that night. A reminder that justice, sometimes, really does sparkle. Emily had moved back into her old room for a while. The first few weeks were hard. There were moments when she'd catch herself checking her phone, expecting a message that never came. But time has a way of softening sharp edges, and she was stronger than she realized. She found a job at the local library, a quiet place, full of kind people and soft-spoken order. She liked that. It reminded her of her mother. Every morning, she'd come downstairs dressed neatly, hair tied back, eyes bright with something I hadn't seen in years, peace. Morning, Dad, she said one day, pouring coffee. Sleep well? Like a baby, I told her. She smiled. Any regrets about the great glitter trap of March? I chuckled, only that I didn't get a better camera angle. She laughed, really laughed, the kind of laugh that comes from a healed place. It filled the kitchen like sunlight. Ryan never came back. He didn't contest the divorce, how could he? Between the recording, the debt collectors, and his own glitter-stained clothes, he didn't have much fight left in him. Word spread quietly through the town. People whispered, not about scandal, but about irony. The man who tried to rob his father-in-law and ended up glowing like a Christmas ornament in front of his wife. I heard he moved 2 states over, chasing some construction job. Maybe he's still trying to outrun the mess he made. Maybe he learned something. Maybe not. That part's not my story anymore. One Saturday morning, my phone buzzed. A text from Mrs. Thompson, my neighbor. Frank, heard about your Innovative security system. Mind helping me install one? Closing parenthesis quote. I laughed so hard I nearly spilled my coffee. Maybe I should have patented it, the Miller glitter defense. The idea made me smile longer than it should have. That night, after Emily went to bed, I sat in my study, the same room where I'd once feared for my safety. The safe was still there. Untouched, locked tight. The difference was, I didn't check it anymore. Because the real treasure wasn't in that metal box. It was sitting upstairs, asleep, rebuilding her life, rediscovering herself. I'd spent years thinking my job was to protect things, my money, my house, my order. But that night, I learned something I should have known all along. The most valuable thing a man protects is dignity, his own, and the people he loves. Ryan tried to take both. And he lost everything trying. Sometimes, I still replay that moment in my mind, the pop of the glitter cannon. The look on his face. That split second when his arrogance dissolved into shock. Not because it was funny, though. God help me, it was. But because it was the moment I stopped being afraid. Fear turns people into victims. Awareness turns them into survivors. And preparation, quiet, careful, deliberate, that's what turns a survivor into someone who wins. One afternoon in early May, Emily came home from work holding a book. "Dad, you've got to read this," she said. "It's about boundaries and forgiveness. I think you'd love it." "Forgiveness?" I teased. "You sure that's for me?" She smiled softly. "You already forgave him, Dad, you just didn't realize it." I thought about that later, sitting by the window, watching the sunset turn the sky the same shade of gold as that damn glitter. She was right. I didn't hate Ryan. Pity, maybe. But not hate. Because in the end, people like him always destroy themselves. They mistake kindness for weakness, and silence for ignorance. They think patience means you've lost. But what they don't understand is that silence, real silence, is power. The kind that watches, learns, and waits for the right moment to strike. Revenge doesn't always need anger. Sometimes, it just needs clarity. And a little imagination. Before going to bed that night, I opened my dresser drawer, the one that once held a key. Then a trap, and finally, a story. There was still a faint shimmer inside. Tiny flecks of gold clinging to the wood. I ran my finger through them and smiled. The house was safe. Emily was happy. And I had nothing left to fear. I turned off the light and whispered to the darkness, not bitterly, but with quiet triumph. "Some lessons," I said, "you only learn when they glitter." Sometimes justice doesn't come from the courts, or the police, or a fight. Sometimes, it comes from being calm, clever, and patient enough to let the truth expose itself. Frank Miller didn't destroy Ryan Carter. Ryan destroyed himself. And in the end, the man everyone thought was just a lonely old fool, turned out to be the sharpest mind in the room. Because revenge doesn't always roar. Sometimes, it sparkles.